Excuse me. I'm smoking something. It's not a cigarette. It's not even weed. I'm smoking crack, guys. You might ask why I'm smoking crack. Well, let me explain. I was sent a trade offer by Jay, and I'll let you know what the offer was. Jay sent me an offer for Josh Gordon in exchange for the Buffalo Bills defense. Yes, I said the Buffalo Bills defense. That's not what makes me want to smoke crack, because those are the sort of trades that you guys just throw around. What I'm going to detail to you is a conversation that Jay and I had on the chat. Private conversation. I declined Jay's offer because I just wasn't interested. And on the chat, I told him, I declined your offer. If you want Gordon, I'm willing to trade for Alshon Jeffrey. I'll also send you Murray to handcuff Cook for you. Let me know. Jay responds and says, I know you would, nigga. I offered you a defense. I laugh. I ask him if he's interested. He says, no, he's not interested because the Minnesota backfield is suspect. So a light bulb goes off in my head. I say, okay, so giving up Jeffrey is too high a price. How sure are you that the Minneapolis backfield is a wash? Does that mean you should just trade me Cook instead? And he goes, can you buy me dinner first before you fuck me? That's clever, Jay. Gonna take another hit of the crack. Right, so he says the clever joke, and I tell him, well, if you think the backfield isn't going to work, I'll trade you Cook for Gordon. If you don't want to, then I think you should have asked for something better than Gordon. You obviously don't want him bad enough. Then I tell him to go fuck himself. And I say, if it's suspect, let me take that backfield out of your hands. Jay says, I just don't want two Minnesota running backs. So I'll quicken the end of the story by, I had to explain to him why he's incorrect about saying that he would be having two Minneapolis running backs. And I explained to him that Paul's team is more of an example of a team that has two running backs because nobody's really qualified themselves on Denver as far as who's going to be the dominant back. That's why Paul was able to do what he was able to do. And I tell him, if you traded Cook to me, or if I traded Murray to you, then that would mean you just have the strongest back. So it's a handcuffing situation. It is not a two quarterback situation. So the end of the story goes, Jay wasn't interested in any sort of offer. I threw him a second offer after that, and he rejected it. So in order to see this a bit better, I'm smoking crack for the rest of my life. This is your week 4 recap. Let me explain something to you, Jay. I sent you that offer because you're obviously interested in Josh Gordon. It's not that I value him very much, and obviously it's the case that you don't value him much because as soon as I sent you something that you weren't interested in, you told me to go fuck myself. Now, what's the point of sending me the Buffalo defense? This is the sort of tactic that Pedro's done at least once or twice every year, where he tries to haggle you. So what he'll do is he'll send you the worst offer possible so you can build on that. And I understand that and I get it. But my problem with you guys when you try that tactic is that, you're all counter punchers. You know what I'm saying? You guys are only good just to throw the first punch. And as soon as somebody throws it back to you, it's like you don't know what the fuck to do. All of a sudden, you're not savvy anymore. All of a sudden, you're not interested in the player. You just wanted to talk to me because you wanted to talk to me. I don't appreciate that. And it seems like I'm going to have to continue to smoke crack for the duration of the season because any other offer that I've gotten from you guys has just been... It just isn't real. It's not real. And I hear people making deals all over the chat, you know, where like Ed blowing up a Orlando spot. So this is interesting because you guys let us know who's working behind the scenes, or you let me know because those people don't send me offers. But as I said, this is your week 4 recap. And what do you say we go over the standings? Over in the Thundercat division, we have I used to run this league with a record of 2-2. Fuck you with a record of 2-2. Team Bundy with a record of 2-2. Dad Bod with a record of 1-3. And of course, Paul bringing up the rear. Thanks killing 1-3. In the G.I. Joe division, we have Nida Kali with a record of 3-1. Pineapple Jugglers 3-1. The Green Ranger 3-1. 2-2, Ewok Rape, and Jago Papa with 1-3. Now, we only have 3 teams that have exceeded the 400 mark as far as scoring, so the rest of us aren't even worth mentioning. But we've got, at number 1, we have Nida Kali with 436. Then after that, we have Pineapple Jugglers with 412, and I used to run this league with 402. I'm not sure if I want to read off the transactions because you guys are pretty much just doing standard stuff. I mean, you drop a defense. Nobody's picking up a lot of players from the player pool. I don't know if that's a mixture of you guys being conservative with your acquisitions, which, you know, we all know in this league we have a limit of 30, or if it's just no breakout players in the league. I'm not sure why everything's just a defense, which makes sense to me. See, let me agree with you guys just for 1 second. A defense is totally a position where I think it's justifiable to, you know, waste at least 10 to 12 acquisitions on, because I mean, let's be honest, like defenses just aren't as valuable as they used to be. I don't think there's any like well-established secondaries out there, or, you know, that just shut it down, you know, sort of like the Legion of Boom at the beginning of the season. I mean, most people could have sworn it probably would have been Minnesota. Maybe you may have thought that, you know, Khalil Mack being added to the Bears would have, you know, made a difference there, but defenses are just, you just switch them. That's really the only position where I can agree to have 2 on your team, because it's like, well, if I have a matchup 2 weeks ahead of time and I just want to keep them on the bench, then I might as well just do that instead of keep switching them in and out. Let's look at some of these week 3 scores. And this week these week 4 scores. This week was such a high scoring week, as you had 7 teams that made it over the 100-point mark. Of course, Joe scoring 143 points, which is the high for the season. And I took a look at the papers. I went down in the papers, and much like I suspected, the most points ever scored in this league was by Paul. I'm sorry, I didn't say that loud enough. Was scored by Paul. I guess I got to speak up a little bit, guys. I'm sorry. I got to still smoke the crack. The most points ever scored by Paul in 2014. Yeah, I said it. Paul achieved the score of 160 points, getting 40 points from Marshawn Lynch, 36 from Aaron Rodgers, and 27 from Jordy Nelson. You know how those combos go, man. Those things are deadly. But you would also be very surprised to know that he defeated Eric in that game. Eric managed to score 148. Yes, Eric once scored over 100 points. At some point in this league, he did it. He did it, and this may have been the only time. Except for this week, of course. Eric got 31 points from his Eagles defense. I don't remember when was the last time anybody got over 25 points from their defense. So, as I said, we had lots of high scores this week. We had Bundy scoring 104 against Hensel's 84. We had Dad Bod defeating Thanksgiving 103 to 101. We had Diego Papa losing to the Green Ranger 89 to 116. Pineapple Jugglers, the 143, defeating Nida Kali 143 points to 100. I'm sorry, it's the crack. I used to run this league, also losing to Ewok Rape 118 to 80. And of course, Ed, having the lowest score in the league, wins the Tito Award. But I mean, that's out of Ed's 80, Andy's 89. You know, the reason why I really have to smoke crack is because you guys actually played good for the very first time, like collectively, like all of you did. Like I beat Hensel. Hensel scored 84 points, 89 points for Andy, and 80. The lowest scores in the first 3 weeks were 44 week 1, 53 week 2, and just last week 64. Ed got the Tito Award, but he exceeded it by 16 points. So that's really why I'm smoking crack. And now that I've said that, now we got to close this motherfucker up. Let's move on to the week 5 matchups. We've got Team Bundy going up against Pineapple Jugglers, who have Tom Brady going out there in just a little bit. And yes, that means Josh Gordon will be on the field. Jay. Speaking of Jay, he's going up against I Used to Run This League, Thanksgiving versus Fuck You, Nida Kali versus Diego Papa, Ewok Rape versus the Green Ranger, and that rounds up your scores. And I'm trying to look for my paper. That rounds up your scores. So that was your week 4 recap. And as always, may your quarterbacks get hurt before they leave the locker room. May your running backs pull their hamstrings. And may your wide receivers get arrested for marijuana possession. Go fuck yourselves.